Hey you, come on over. Mom's not home till 6, and we're exploring the TV and movies that made you turn down the volume so your parents wouldn't hear. We're going to build our intimacy literacy and dig into all the weird messages we took from pop culture about sex, relationships, and ourselves. Because, let's be honest, this was all the sex ed we got. I am joined today by the ultimate scream, killer, thriller, queen, king, royalty, the one, the only Blair Somerville.
Oh my God. Wow. What an intro.
They are a relationship therapist specializing in gender and sexuality. They are the founder and CEO.
Oh.
Yeah, CEO. I'm throwing that in there. Of Lavender Moon Counseling and Wellness, PLLC, in Durham, North Carolina. And honestly, the person that I would want to hang out in a Blockbuster with after school.
Thank you. Wow. That was like a new level of intro. And I feel like that's reflective of how excited you are for Scream, which we're talking about today.
Whew, this is going to be like my feelings for Pretty Woman times 15. So let me know if we need to stop recording so I can gather myself at any point.
Okay, I'll tell you if you need to if we need to edit something out and you need to control yourself. But anyway, okay. Now I'm also getting worked up. I'm excited. I am joined by final girl Veronica Dress. She is a sexuality educator, coach, and intimacy director for theater, and she is maybe the biggest fan of Scream I've ever met, maybe on the planet. I don't know who could contest it.
I feel like there are other people who are bigger on the planet, but I'm top 3 of people I know, for sure.
Oh, nice. Okay, we'll take it. So yeah, as we said, we're talking about Scream, and we mean the original Scream, 1996 American slasher film Scream is what we're talking about. And I do have some fun
Halloween
facts.
episode, you know?
Our holiday Halloween episode. But before I do our fun facts, tell me about your relationship to this movie, Veronica.
Gosh, I can't remember the first time I saw it. I think I was definitely in 7th or 8th grade. And my friends and I were obviously the coolest kids in school, which is to say we used to make videos of our favorite movies. Like we would reenact them. And so there is footage somewhere in the world of me and my friends in the basement of the rectory at our grade school. Perfect. Doing a reenactment of this movie. I was really gunning to play Drew Barrymore, but I was not cast in that role.
Oh, God.
Unfortunately, my friend Justine was. And so I think maybe I was Neve Campbell, but if I'm honest, I'm probably Tatum, her best friend. And it honestly was one of the greatest joys of my life. I will tell you, I have a lot of the dialogue here memorized in a big way.
Still
you know,
got that
in the
part
way that
living
only
in you.
like a ragtag group of queer kids in suburban Pennsylvania in the late 90s could, you know? What about you? Have you seen the Scream franchise before?
So this is interesting because I've been familiar with the Scream franchise. I've seen so many things that reference Scream and that like parody it, make fun of it. Having watched it now, I can see like a lot of things were almost one for one, practically a remake. I love a slasher movie. I love horror movies in general. I had never seen Scream 1996, and I am enraged. I'm furious. I will never forgive whoever it was that stopped me from watching this. Maybe my past self. I will hold that grudge forever because I can't believe how much time I've missed out not having seen this whole movie and enjoyed it because I loved it. I was under the impression, not having seen it and only seen other things that kind of take off the movie, that it was a movie that took itself seriously, that it was a straightforward, scary slasher movie. And it is not. It is a satire. It was always intended to be a satire. And it does it so amazingly. It does an amazing job.
Like little nesting dolls of self-referential and then like references to the genre, and it's silly and it's tongue in cheek, but it also is really smart and still manages to be scary. It's just
Yeah.
like such a beautiful tribute to the genre while still being fun and hip and young and fresh in the year 1996.
Yes.
I
love it. And I'm so confused why I thought this and how I missed it, because I have seen like the original Nightmare on Elm Street, which came out in 1984.
I'll tell you exactly why you thought it.
Tell me why.
Because not knowing you at all during that era of our lives, because we were small children in different states, I know that after Scream hit it big, there were following years where the Scary Movie franchise began. And that very much in its branding was aimed at making fun of Scream, which is interesting because Easter egg, the original title for the manuscript of this movie was Scary Movie.
Yes.
So, fun fact for you. So, I think if you had not seen it already, you would think, oh, if Scary Movie is making fun of horror movies and it's making fun of Scream, then Scream must like be serious horror movie.
Yeah.
Not the case, friends. Not the case.
Yeah.
I'm so
I think
so
you're
excited
right.
for you.
I think you're right. I loved it. So yeah, okay. It also has quite the cast. So I'm going to share my Wikipedia fun facts about the movie, and I'm going to mess up
a quickie.
most of the actors' names. So first, our fun facts. Scream is a 1996 American slasher film directed by Wes Craven, written by Kevin Williamson. It stars David Arquette, Neve. You said Neve Campbell, not Neve Campbell? Neve, okay. Courtney Cox, friend of the show Matthew Lillard, and Rose McGowan, Skeet Ulrich, who
I think it's Ulrich.
I know him as, and this is to my great shame, I mainly know him from Riverdale.
He's in Riverdale?
He's in Riverdale.
Okay, we'll get into an
dad.
aside about Skeet Ulrich later, but yeah,
we'll talk about him later. And of course, Drew Barrymore. The writer, Williamson, was struggling to get his projects off the ground at the time. He was inspired by reports of a series of murders by the Gainesville Ripper. So he wrote this screenplay that was satirizing the cliches of the slasher genre, popularized in films such as Halloween, Friday the 13th, and Nightmare on Elm Street. And, like you said, Veronica, it was originally going to be titled Scary Movie.
And scary it is.
Scary it is. And they use that word a lot in the movie, which makes sense that it was going to be a reference to the title of the movie. But then I guess they changed their minds.
Yeah, absolutely. It is really, in watching it this go around through the lens of our conversations and our work, there are so many messages around sexuality, and specifically, I think gender roles are real big in this one.
Yeah.
But it's super interesting to see the ways that a lot of this movie is just misogynist men angry at women is kind of the reason for the season.
Yes, a lot of what is scary in this movie is teenage boys or men needing to express masculinity in an unhealthy way, which I think is really fascinating. But to get into that,
villain of all.
The scariest villain of all, toxic masculinity. Our quickie summary. I've got it.
Give me a
you ready?
Let's have a quickie.
In the small fictional town of Woodsboro, California, high school student Casey Becker is home alone when she receives a phone call from an unknown person. They discuss horror films until the caller turns sadistic, threatening her life and revealing that her boyfriend, Steve, is tied up on her patio. The caller demands she answer questions about horror films to save his life, but Casey gives an incorrect answer about Friday the 13th, and so he kills Steve. Casey attempts to escape, but is stabbed to death by someone wearing a ghostface costume, and her disemboweled corpse is found hanging from a tree by her parents. The next morning, news media descends on the town as a police investigation ensues. Casey's classmate, Sydney Prescott, struggles with the impending first anniversary of the horrible rape and murder of her mother, Maureen, by Cotton Weary. The trauma has made her unable to consummate her relationship with her boyfriend, Billy Loomis. As her father, Neil, is traveling for work, Sydney waits at home alone for her best friend, Tatum. She receives a call taunting her about Maureen's death and is attacked by Ghostface, who disappears just before Billy climbs through her window. She's obviously immediately suspicious when he drops a cell phone, and Billy's arrested by Deputy Sheriff Dewey, who is also Tatum's brother. Outside the police station, Sydney ends up in a physical altercation with the investigative journalist, Gail Weathers. Gail had written a book claiming Maureen had multiple extramarital affairs, including one with Cotton, who Gail believes was falsely accused by Sydney of Maureen's homicide. Sydney stays at Tatum's house, but gets another taunting phone call from the killer. The calls are traced to Neil's phone, her dad, but the police are unable to locate him. Following his release, Billy encounters Sydney at school, further upsets her by comparing his absent mother to Maureen's death and bringing up their sex life, that she should just get over her trauma and have sex with him. After suspending classes in the wake of the murders, Principal Himbry is murdered in his office.
Played by Henry Winkler. The Fonz.
Played by Henry Winkler. The Fonz himself. To celebrate the school's closure, Stu, Matthew Lillard, throws a party at his place, and it is quite secluded. Okay, side note, the houses in this movie are out of control.
I know. We'll talk about it.
We'll get there. Dewey and Gail keep watch on the party in case the killer strikes again. Tatum is isolated in the garage by Ghostface, who crushes her neck in the garage door. As fellow high schooler Randy details the rules of surviving a horror film, news arrives of Principal Himbry's murder. Most partygoers leave to see his body, nearly running over Dewey and Gail while inadvertently leading them to Neil's hidden car. Billy arrives at the house to reconcile with Sydney, and they finally have sex. Afterward, they're attacked by Ghostface, and Billy is stabbed. Sydney evades Ghostface, who kills Gail's cameraman, Kenny, and stabs Dewey when he returns. Gail, attempting to flee in her van, crashes and is knocked unconscious. Sydney seeks refuge inside the house, locking Stu and Randy outside as they each accuse the other of being the killer. A seemingly wounded Billy emerges and allows Randy inside before shooting him in the shoulder, revealing himself as the killer and Stu as his accomplice. Billy confesses they killed Maureen because the discovery of her affair with his father led to his mother's abandonment. The pair abducted Neil to frame him for their crimes and proceed to stab each other to depict themselves as the last survivors. However, they're distracted by Gail's return, allowing Sydney to incapacitate Billy and kill Stu by dropping a TV on his head. Billy nearly stabs Sydney, but is shot by Gail. After Randy remarks that horror film killers revive for a final scare, Billy lunges for them. But Sydney shoots him in the head, killing him. As dawn breaks, Neil is rescued, Dewey's taken away by ambulance, and Gail is providing an impromptu news report about the night's events.
A lot
and
there.
That's the movie.
There's a lot there. You might be thinking, wow, that's a lot of violence. And it is.
It sure is.
Turns out that actually Wes Craven had to negotiate and argue with the studios to get a R rating. They had to tone down some of the violence. So what we see is a toned down version. Yeah. So the most important takeaways, I think, from our perspective, or like one of them from a plot point, is the first murder we see of Drew Barrymore in that beautiful cold open scene that I could talk about in a TED Talk for years, is that Billy and Stu, who are the collab killers, they're partners, they kill her because she broke up with Stu. She broke up with Matthew Lillard a while ago. So this is a revenge killing. And then the whole premise for killing both Neve Campbell's mom and continuing this journey of more murders is because, unbeknownst to Neve Campbell and Skeet Ulrich, so Sydney and Billy, their parents were having an affair with each other, and that's why his mom broke up with his dad. And so he assaults and then murders Sydney's mom. And now here we are a year later, anniversary of the death, and more murder, more murder. It is wild. It is wild. It's wild. And also so fun. It's a romp. I know you don't know how it can be both, but it can. You just have to watch it.
It can.
Here we go. All right. Takeaways. What? I just want to know everything you've thought about this movie, Blair.
So, one of the things, first of all, the quote that has just been echoing in my mind is we see some girls talking shit about Sydney in the bathroom, and they don't realize Sydney is also in the bathroom. Mm-hmm. The things that this girl says are really horrible, but one of them that she says is really hilarious. And she says, oh, Sydney and her bubble butt boyfriend, Billy. And I can't get over her bubble butt boyfriend, Billy.
Bubble butt. Yeah. And his butt's not that notable. It's not a bubble butt.
It's not.
Listen.
It is not a bubble butt, in fact. It's incredible that she thought it was, but it's a great phrase. And that is the thing that stands out to her about Billy is his bubble butt. Like, that's his one descriptor he gets. I love that for him.
Instead of his, like, would-be, he's like bargain basement Johnny Depp trying to portray James Dean is really what it is.
Oh, my God.
Brutal. And just to like do some like visual world building for folks. It's peak 90s. Dude. The fashion is stunning. Everyone lives in gorgeous homes. It's like wine country California, rolling hills, sunsets.
They're all secluded homes on the hill.
Yeah, homes on a hill.
Huge homes.
It made me, one of the notes I wrote down when watching it was, do I need a spin-off podcast that is just me talking about the interior design of different movie homes? Because I think that could really be a thing.
There's a lot to say.
We get a shot of Sydney's back porch when she's on the phone. And it is a wedding venue. It is a outdoor cocktail hour venue. There are 2 bistro sets side by side on this table or on this deck. And it's like, you're one family. Why wouldn't you just get one longer table instead of these 2 tiny round tables next to each other? Figure it out.
It doesn't make sense.
And then the next most important thing for people to know visually is Courtney Cox, neon pantsuits, blonde highlights.
I feel like, importantly, not pantsuits, mini skirt suits.
Mini skirt suits. You're right.
Yes. But highlighter yellows, highlighter pink, very neon bright, matchy outfits.
This costume brought to you by Staples. Yeah.
A leopard print headband at one point. I also want to note.
I missed the headband. I can't believe I did. Wait, you know what? I know the scene you're talking about. There is a headband. It's visually, it's a cornucopia. It's a feast for the eyes. And the wild statements that are made about women, about sex, about the rules of horror movies. It is cuckoo cuckoo.
Yeah.
What relationships where do you want to start, Blair? There's just so much.
So let's talk about Sydney. So part of me wants to talk about Matthew Lillard just because we're turning into a Matthew Lillard fan cast, because how can you not? Yeah. I love Matthew Lillard. Every time I see him in something, I just love him more. And so we're going to have to watch the Scooby-Doo movie because he is in that also.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that maybe we should save Matthew Lillard overarching gushing for the end as a little treat.
Okay. We'll end on a high note. Gushing about Matthew. Okay.
Well, the final scene with him in it, that's the whole point of the movie to me. So
amazing. Yeah. So in the meantime, we have this relationship between Sydney and Billy. And it is marked by he at one point says to her, what is it between us? You haven't been the same since your mom died a year ago. And it's like, do you hear yourself, Billy? What the fuck do you mean? Yeah. What is it between us?
A year ago tomorrow.
A year ago tomorrow, I killed your mom. Why are things weird between us?
The direct quote, hold on, I wrote some good DQs.
I have some quotes from Sydney about herself in regards to this between them also that are crazy to me.
I know. She's like, yeah, a year ago tomorrow. What is your deal? And he goes, yeah, and I think it's time you got over that. When my mom left my dad, I just had to make peace with it. She's not coming back. What?
Side note, he clearly has not made peace with it because he's going on a murder rampage.
People.
for over a year.
Has not
because of
made
it.
peace,
He
demonstrably.
has not accepted it.
Yeah, no, that's not acceptance.
No, but the core thing between
Ugh.
them is that the way he puts it, like when we first see him climbing through her window, was like, when our relationship started previously, we were on track for like an NC-17 rating, and now we have, what does he say, an edited for TV relationship?
Yeah, they cut out all the good parts.
Yeah, so they're like not having sex. He suggests at that point, what about some over the clothes stuff? Which is also really funny to me, just the way that he did that.
I know. Well, I want to also, God, just stop me if like the movie film nerd part of me comes out,
No,
which
please
I didn't
do.
realize existed, but
I don't know. I'm
does.
realizing I don't know a damn thing about movie and film, so I think this is working really well.
I took 3 film classes in high school.
Nice.
3 different film classes.
Whoa.
Okay. What is super interesting to me is just like the context in which this scene happens is we just had the opening sequence, which is just jump straight into the chase scene and murder of Drew Barrymore.
Murder. Yeah.
Which it's just so beautifully done. It's just such a good opening. And that they pan away to the body of Drew Barrymore, and then there's like this scary cutaway noise, and then what we see is Billy jumping into the scene, jumping onto camera from the outside window. Like literally it's a jump scare of this man coming into his girlfriend's bedroom. So
yeah.
From the jump, it's like we can't trust this guy, and also he is predatory, right? Like he is.
Yeah, he's always doing his scary predatory face like a freaking anime antagonist. Like it's crazy. The like he's always looking downward so that he can look up out of his eyes at her. Like it's extremely villainous.
Yeah. Yeah. It's giving Johnny Depp and Crybaby, but not as good. And yet I have to confess to you, I had such a crush on Skeet Ulrich.
He's a beautiful man. I'm sure that's part of the point.
I guess so. It's really, for me, my type is 90s heartthrob. That's it. That is
there's a reason it's coming
my
back.
Partner.
Especially amongst the lesbians. It's coming back.
Oh my God.
A
lesbian or non-binary 90s heartthrob haircut.
We love
Catnip. So the whole scene with them is him guilting her for not having as much of a sex drive after her mom died, which, PSA, there are many things that can impact somebody's desire levels, and grief is one of them. Like,
sure. Totally normal.
It makes sense.
And like, also,
we all
his
process
pressure
grief differently. Some people want to have more sex when they are in a state of grief or high stress, and the opposite is also true. Let's have a minute, Billy.
Seriously.
Also, as an aside. Oh, no. You know what? Your treat is going to be talking about Matthew Lillard.
Okay.
My treat is going to be sharing all of the movie references that are embedded in this movie.
Oh my God, there's so many, and I love them.
So, anyway.
Okay, that'll be your treat later.
He's just guilting her consistently, and she says, like, yeah, let's do some over the clothes stuff. And as soon as they are horizontal, he sticks his hand up her nightgown, which is a grandmother's nightgown. Picture
under the
it.
clothes.
Flannel, plaid, or like those tiny little flowers. I can't remember which. There are buttons up to the neck. There's a scrunchie. It's very all-American, virginal sweetheart white lady is the costuming goal of this moment.
She's dressed very conservatively.
Up her skirt immediately.
Yeah. Immediately.
That is not over the clothes. That's under the clothes.
Yes, it's not over the clothes at all. So he immediately changes the deal. And then he also, he complains a lot that she hasn't been the same since, he killed her mom. But he also surely hasn't been the same since he killed her mom, because it seems like he's been pressuring her constantly since then.
Yes.
And that changes a person too. It's a comedy movie, so they don't really go into his psychology. They make a big deal out of who needs a motivation these days. It's the new millennia. But he that it'll fuck you up to do a crime like that. Like, you're not going to be your regular old self right afterward.
Right. And the lines that he says in that particular scene are almost pulled from a bad PSA about consent or like
Mm-hmm.
coercion, where he, as soon as she pushes him off of her, he goes, "See what you do to me." And then he's
Yeah.
halfway out the window to leave and is like, "By the way, I'm not trying to rush you." It's
Yeah.
like, what did you just do for this whole scene? And
Yes.
when she flashes him to be like, "Would you settle for PG-13?" And then
Yeah, so
flashes him,
cute.
he's like, "You're just a tease," right? Like
Yeah.
every single
She
thing
can't
he
win.
says is like, this whole movie just feels like a cautionary tale of what happens to women who don't follow, quote unquote, the rules of
Mm,
patriarchy and purity, right? Like
yeah.
that's from the perspective of the killer. That's what this movie
Yeah.
is. Like they are trying to teach people a
Yeah.
lesson, specifically women a lesson who do not follow the rules. And so it makes total sense that they're
Yes.
leaning on all of these movie rules because I think it is one, a fantastic storytelling tool, but
Hmm.
also it's a parallel to what we are seeing happening to
Yeah.
like this is what happens when you don't follow
The
the
script.
rules of femininity that we have told you that you need to follow.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally see that. And I guess I'm interested in your opinion on this because I have started to realize in some of the different movies we've seen, and especially in this one, that sometimes I start to feel uncertain when we're watching something that I know is a comedy or a satire of like,
Mm,
so how much is the movie like taking these sorts of things as a given that like, well, yeah, this is fine and this is how people behave and we don't need to interrogate this because of the broader culture we're in, and how much is the
mm.
movie taking those things and exaggerating them a little to hold it up and be like, yeah, see, isn't this like super fucked up that we like basically say this stuff implicitly, but now we're going to make it explicit so that you can see how out of control it is.
I think with this movie, it is the latter. I think it
Yeah.
is
Okay.
they are aware of what they are doing,
Yeah, because
and
okay, she
uh,
says some quotes that I simply refuse to believe someone could write or say out loud and not hear exactly how fucked up it is, although it absolutely is implicitly something we never say out loud, but is an expectation, I think.
right, the quiet parts are being said out loud,
Yes,
and the
exactly.
volume is being turned up in the way that like only a campy horror movie satire can do, which I think
Hmm.
is what makes it like such a really phenomenal tool for that message. Is that it's like this is unhinged, and
Hmm.
this is like maybe 10%, 15% more unhinged than a lot of horror movies are about it, but not that much more, right? And at least
Yeah.
this is self-aware trying to make a point of it. It's interesting also that in terms of like the moment in time this movie came out was also during a time that like on Capitol Hill they were starting to wrestle with the impact of violence in movies and video games on
Mm.
the behaviors and actions of real life
Oh, interesting.
like
People.
murderers, yeah, people, and like school shootings, etc. And so I think there's a whole other sub not even subplot but another commentary happening in
Hmm.
parallel about the commodification of violence, specifically violence against women, as like an opportunity
Hmm.
to launch a person's career, right? Like this almost
Yeah.
like influencer villain thing, right? And I think we
Yeah.
see that with Courtney Cox's character, and then we have a really easy
Mm.
time demonizing her, even
Yeah.
though, like, yes, she takes this court case as an opportunity to further her career, which is super gross and icky. And
Her
she,
audience, she said she
in
pulled
an,
best with men 18 to
mhm,
24. Those are the people
right.
consuming her content.
Right. And but at the same time, underneath both of those layers, she is actually like standing up for the person who was wrongly convicted of this murder.
Hmm.
She's like one of the only people who's like literally writing a book about like, no, this doesn't add up. The wrong person has been put in
Yeah.
jail and he needs to be freed. Like there is
Hmm.
like advocacy work happening underneath all of it. And so I think all of that commentary happening together is so interesting, paired with something I read that was I did not know, is that I think the director is a gay man, and said in several interviews how he found a lot of kinship or like parallels in a lot of Sydney's behavior with his experience of growing up as like a closeted gay man. And like this idea, there's just so much there, right? And there's like a whole subgenre of people that believe that Stu and Billy were lovers, which
I felt it. I felt the tension.
The
homoerotic tension was real.
Them. Oof, yes.
Matthew Lillard hovering right on his shoulder. There was just a lot between them that felt like there was some powerful emotions moving between them.
Yeah. So we see this relationship in the context of the horror movie rule that if you have sex, you die. If you are a woman, specifically. Sometimes for men, but mostly for women in horror movies. That like the second that you are known to have had sex, you are worth killing, is kind of the scary movie rule.
The rule, as they put it, is sex equals death. Only the virgins can outsmart the killers.
Exactly right. And like specifically, it's like framed as punishment for women who luxuriate in any sort of pleasure, right? Any woman in any scary movie who it like takes up space and like openly admits to it, like liking sex and enjoying sexual pleasure, is a harlot who must be offed by the killer.
Well, the way they list in rule number 2, when Randy's like listing the rules, rule number 1 is don't have sex. Rule number 2 is you can never drink or do drugs. The sin factor is an extension of number 1, is what he says. So yeah, it's definitely about the purity culture stuff that comes in.
Yeah, all of these scary movies, perhaps in their own way, not all, but I think historically a lot of them could be or have been used as like propaganda tools, right? Of like, this is an analogy for this group of people, and look what happens when you don't listen or when you step outside the prescribed rules of a society or the rules of a time, which is something. It's something.
Well, that's interesting. I got this idea from Sarah Marshall listening to, I think at the time it wasn't called You Are Good, but it is now called You Are Good podcast.
Yes.
Where she was saying that what's interesting about horror movies is that they say something about what the audience is willing to find scary, or maybe what we're afraid of at the time. And I think I'm thinking now about like how you said this took place at a broader time context when we're thinking more about like school shootings and what is the consequence of media, especially on young people, especially on young men, and that a lot of what is scary in the movie, like we have all of these really menacing, intense shots where we're not sure who the villain is, and it is almost always a young man who's saying or doing something creepy, aggressive, coercive, and we're not sure whether he's capable of murder when we're seeing those shots, like right up until the very end when they reveal who Ghostface has been the whole time.
Yes. And there's even at the very beginning of the movie where like the first murder of Drew Barrymore has happened, but no other murders have happened yet, that they're like sitting on the fountain outside of school, which, oh my gosh, could you imagine going to school with a fountain?
No, so cool. I was stunned. They had a whole fountain. I was like, that must be a California thing, because I think they had that in Buffy too. And I am on the East Coast. Never have I ever seen a fountain at a school.
You have heard me say more than once how I was just salivating with envy watching most high school comedy or movies, being like, people get to like walk outside between classes and they have fountains and stuff. Like, what? They go to the beach after school, but they're sitting out there and they're like speculating who did what. And like after Casey's murder, Casey being Drew Barrymore, everyone in the school is questioned by the police, like one by one during that school day. People are brought in to be asked some questions, and they're talking about this. And apparently, only the men, or boys. Only the boys were asked if they hunted because
Mm.
of the way in which Drew Barrymore's character was found. And Tatum is like, well, they didn't ask me that. And the immediate like expectation setting from Matthew Lillard is like, well, yeah, only a man would be strong enough to do that. And it is said comedically, but not comedically, right?
Yeah.
Like that beautiful over the top, like it takes a
Yes.
man to do that.
Good old
But at the
Schrodinger's
same time-
douchebag. I love that.
Right. And if you have seen the movie before and you know what you're looking for, right? Like that's so much fun in these kinds of movies where you can watch back and be like, oh my gosh, they're having such a conversation between themselves about how much they are going to implicate themselves or how brazen they are going to be with how they talk about this thing that actually they are responsible for.
Well, and they also say in that
and-
conversation something like it would take a real man to do something
Yeah, it
like
would
not
take
just
real man to
a
do
man's
something
strength, but like a real man.
Yeah. Ugh. And yes. And I just feel like I feel so much for Neve Campbell's Sydney, right? I feel so bad for her throughout because it seems so clear that she A, has no support, and B, is like moving through life with this trauma. And on top of it, like, God, that fantastic, terrible line where they're arguing in the school hallway. And she's like, I'm sorry if my trauma is an inconvenience to you and your perfect existence, or whatever the line is.
She's really taking in all the guilt.
Yes, that she's just so frustrated with herself that she can't just move on. And I mean, I have such empathy for her, right? Like when you have lost somebody or you are experiencing grief or like depression or whatever overwhelming sensation of emotion for like a chronic kind of time, that there is this like deep yearning to just like flip a switch and be over it. And at the same time feeling perhaps guilt for the ways that it is impacting your relationships and the people who care for you. Yeah. But I think in this case, we are seeing that like, this dude sucks. Like, why are you together? Yeah. There's no real moment where we see him being
particularly kind or helpful. Yeah.
Yeah. Like even the before scene, right? Like the scene that I think we're supposed to see what their relationship has been like up until the start of this movie is that creepy bedroom scaling the roof
coercing her.
But with like Matthew Lillard and Tatum, we see them, they're very physical with each other, right? Yeah. Like they're just like,
they're very playful.
Laying on each other, being very playful. Like there are multiple times where he's just like picking her up and they're just like,
he's just like carrying her around in various
like
ways.
I know. It's like watching a bad contact improv workshop is what it is. You know, you feel like you're at Shikori Fest or something. But it is so, we see the general vibe of their relationship and can see the quote unquote good parts of it. But I feel like we don't really get that with Sydney and Billy. We don't see what is worth them being in a relationship for. We just see him be creepy from the jump and like very manipulative.
Yes. Well, and when she does later agree to have sex with him, she with a straight face, and it is a satire, so I think the audience is supposed to hear how out of control of a statement this is. She looks at him and she says, I've been really self-absorbed with all my post-traumatic stress. And when she's talking about not having had sex with him this past year.
Yes.
And he's like, yeah, you have been. And then that's the chat they have, and then they have sex. That was so shocking to me that she really made I've been so self-absorbed with my post-traumatic stress. Like just hearing someone say it out loud, even though that is how people are treated when they go through trauma, when they're having symptoms of PTSD, especially if it's been, I don't know, it seems like people expect you to be better once the news cycle moves on from whatever it was that happened to you. And if you continue to have symptoms, which you do because it's PTSD, so it's here to visit for a while. People treat you like you're making a big deal, you want attention, all those things that girl said about Sydney in the bathroom. Like, it's
Mm-hmm.
really awful how people react sometimes. The implicit pressure we put on someone in the way we talk to and about them as if they are being self-absorbed by being traumatized.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And I'm so aware of the fact that, or the irony perhaps of the fact that we're having this conversation on a consumable medium, right? Like people can consume this conversation. But I think this movie, even though it happened in 96, right? Like so much of the rabbit hole we've gone down so much of it already since then. But that monologue that the cheerleader says in the bathroom when she's talking shit about Sydney and her mom and her bubble butt boyfriend, Billy, at the end of her monologue, her friend is like, dude, where do you get this stuff? And she's like, Ricky
Yeah.
Lake, right? Like we
Uh-huh.
have consumed so much media and it has shifted through social media that like there is a incredibly blurred line between entertainment and other people's lived experiences
Yeah.
that I think we are all just out here consuming one another's lives as if they are content. And that includes people's patience or lack thereof when it comes to somebody's difficult grief-filled trauma, right? It's like,
Yeah.
well,
Yeah,
I've
like they
moved
want
on to
to
something
read a
else on
different
my
book.
phone. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't get it. Why are you still sad? And I think in different ways that has been true before social media, right? Like, I
Yeah.
think forever and ever folks have said, like, you know, after a funeral, everyone else goes back to their life, but you don't. And so knowing all of that and the complicated nature that intimacy and sex can play or how they can show up or not during times of great distress feels like front and center here in a comedic way in many ways, right? Because it's so unhinged and so over the top. But I'm curious about when they finally do have sex. So it's the night of the
Yeah.
party at Stu's house. We're at Matthew Lillard's gorgeous home.
Mm-hmm.
And for whatever reason, Nev Campbell, Sydney, decides that she's going to have sex with Billy, her boyfriend.
Mm-hmm.
Why does she do that? And what do you have to say about this scene?
It seems like earlier she had this discussion with her friend that, like, yeah, you know, how many guys would put up with a girl who's sexually anorexic? And she also made that comment about him and his perfect life. So she has this idea that he's this really amazing, perfect guy and that she should do whatever she can to maintain the relationship and keep him and make him happy, that he deserves whatever it is he wants to make him happy. And that's certainly what the impression he wants her to have. And I think she's riddled with guilt. She feels bad. She has some guilt too that, like, have I been really idealizing my mother, not allowed myself to see her for who she really was? Have I accidentally accused the wrong guy of killing her? I think she's experiencing so much self-doubt and she wants security. And I think that's like the character emotional state I feel like she's going in with it. In some ways, it happens in the movie because right before this, Randy's narrating that, of course, we have the obligatory tit shot. And then it's like to her about to take off her bra, which they never actually show her breasts, which I thought was great too.
It's such a good, you guys, listener, if you haven't seen this movie, go watch it and then listen to this, because honestly, it is so well done. Not in a like classy well done, but like in a just so funny and tongue-in-cheek. Like the whole time we're getting to see this sex scene, it is with the narration of Jamie Kennedy down in the family room with all the other people saying the rules of the scary movie, including the sex scene.
Kennedy.
And everything they do mirrors the sex scene. So, well, then you need the obligatory tit shot. Cut to Nev Campbell taking off her bra. Right? It's it is so good.
It is. So yeah, what did you think about this scene and like these two characters? What drove Sydney to decide now is the time to have sex?
Well, it breaks my heart that Sydney's decision, it's very clear to me that Sydney's decision to have sex with him is an apology. She's offering her body as an apology, to like misquote Sonia Renee Taylor, right? That she's like, sorry you've had to put up with me being a human who feels complex feelings for the last year. So here's your entitlement to my body. Because I think that's the thing behind the thing of this whole damn movie is like the whole thing is giving like incels on Reddit in a big way, right? Like the rage and anger toward women and entitlement to women and hatred of women that Stu and Billy are exhibiting and expressing, especially in an unbridled way at the very end of the film in that final scene. Yeah. Like that is the flavor of this ice cream that we are, that Dewey is eating as a sheriff with an ice cream cone. Which is a favorite scene. I know
my
he's,
God.
David Arquette's just out here eating an ice cream cone, being the least tox mask sheriff you could ever see. Which, a cab, and
appreciate that for him. And I also did love, as a super short side note, when the Fonz comes on the PA system at the school to announce, like, there's a curfew in place. He says, your principal loves you and wants you to be safe. There's a curfew.
I love
Please
Henry
make
Winkler
sure you're at home.
Shocking to no one, I went down a Wikipedia rabbit hole of Henry Winkler's life while watching this movie. He went to Yale School of Drama.
Wow.
Okay, Fonz.
Okay,
yes.
Fonz.
And his parents moved to the U.S. in 1939 as German Jews. And and kept evading their visa to go back to Germany.
Wow.
Every time that Germany was like, come on back. And they were like,
nope.
We're doing business over here.
Hell no.
And sweet Henry Winkler's out here trying to be an actor. And his dad's like, I came over here to build my business and you don't want to take over the family business? Why did I do it? And Henry's like, to escape the Nazis, Dad. Like, is that not good enough reason? Wild journey. But all that to say, yes, Henry Winkler is a really interesting, I think we see several red herrings in the way they filmed several of the men specifically, right? Like, I don't think we are led to believe that any woman in this movie is a potential killer.
Even though Tatum does say it could be a woman.
I know. Get it, Tatum. Yes. But we see them show the energy toward the dad, who meanwhile has actually just been tied up with duct tape and put in the family's closet this whole movie. But we, even with the way Henry Winkler is shot reprimanding students who are running around the hallways with those ghostface masks as a prank, we see like the turned up volume on like the scissors he has to like cut up the masks.
And he threatens them
to make us be like, is he scaly? Is he a bad guy? Well, what about this man? Is he a bad guy? What about Jamie Kennedy? He seems unhinged.
Kennedy. It's just blowing my mind every time we say that, because whenever you say his name, I can see the Jamie Kennedy Experience, like little commercial or whatever the hell that show was where he was like pranking people.
Was that what that was? I'm not familiar.
Yes.
I mean, I know it existed, but that's the extent of my familiarity with it.
Yes, it's just sending me straight into like the 2000s, and I'm watching this show on my parents' TV. Jamie Kennedy.
Well, good. Mom's not home till 6, so if that's what you want to watch, that's what
the
you're going
point
to watch.
Of the show. We're doing it.
Yeah, we're doing it. Yeah, I think, but it is interesting. Maybe interesting is not the word. It is heartbreaking, perhaps in a meta sort of way, how easy it is to fall into the habit of looking at every man in this movie as a potential source of
murderer.
Violence. Right. That, like, I think for many people, marginalized identities, not just women, like, that is true. Like, to move through the world is to be constantly aware of the mood and presence and body language of white men in a space. Because there is, like, a direct link between their sense of satisfaction and entitlement and confidence with the safety of everyone else in the space. And this is a turn it up to 11 sort of take on that. But that's also what we're shown in all of the horror movies, right?
Yeah.
Every single one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So
I thought
all that
that
to
was
say, the
really well
messages
done.
about sex are not great in this
No.
one.
No.
But maybe in a
No.
meta way they are, because we're not supposed to be rooting for them.
That's what I'm
You
saying
know?
is I think that the messages portrayed in this movie about sex are intentionally bad. Like, I think there's no way that it was written without the realization, like, yeah, this is horrible. And I think it is intentional to hold it up and be like, yeah, we kind of all think these things enough that when you say them, it's not shocking, but it is like being caught with your hand in the cookie jar a little bit. Like, oh my God, I didn't know we were going to say it though. I didn't know we were going to look directly at it, even though I know that's usually in the room with us.
Right. And that in this case, like having the third thing to look at of Ghostface in the Scream mask is giving us permission to look more directly at it, right?
Yeah.
Like there's something about having that separation of this costume, this mask that they are hiding behind emboldens people, including you as the viewer, to look more directly at it and be like, oof, whoo, we're saying it?
Yeah.
We're really doing it?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that this movie just like writ large dances that delicate dance between sincerity in the ways in which the story is being portrayed while keeping that tongue-in-cheek meta self-awareness.
Yeah.
And I think that final scene is I mean, chef's kiss, right? We see meanwhile Monica Geller is in the background like driving news vans into trees and out there like saving the day and learning how to work a gun. And it's like this like, oh, write this fan fiction of enemies to lovers, Courtney Cox and Nev Campbell in this film. Because they have this running vendetta against one another because Courtney Cox is making her name for herself off of the trial of Sydney's mother's death. But we come to this final scene where we're starting to connect dots of who these villains are and how they are posing themselves as if they are also in danger from the murderer. And so we see Billy and Stu and even sweet little Jamie Kennedy like trying to safely get in the house away from the killer. But we know that one or more of them is the killer at this point. Yeah. And then it gets unhinged. This is permission to talk about Matthew Lillard now.
Let's talk about Matthew Lillard and how he does such an amazing job being so like, he just really goes all the way there, and it's extremely unhinged and out of control. He's both very scary and also still very hilarious, because at one point in this final scene where he's like, he and Billy are stabbing each other, they're explaining why and how they've killed everyone, literal mask off moment, and then he starts like whining that like it's peer pressure.
You cut me too deep, man.
My parents are going to be so pissed at me, dude. It's like
that's a fun fact. That's an improv moment. That was unscripted.
My parents are
going to be so mad at me. Oh, so good.
He's so funny, and the intensity with which like so Billy is like threatening Sydney and explaining to her why he has done all these horrible things and why she deserves to die, basically. And Matthew Lillard is hovering right over his shoulder, like pressed up against him, leaning over him, doing his out of control smile. His eyes are huge and all over the place. And that's one of the times where it does feel like, I don't know how Skeet did it, because with Matthew Lillard hovering over your shoulder with that degree of intensity, I don't know how you wouldn't be like shocked or frightened yourself or brought out of it a little bit. But I thought that was really well done. And that was one of the times that they seemed to have a lot of chemistry together. That and the time they were threatening and making fun of Jamie Kennedy in the video store was when the homoerotic tension really seemed to be there.
Well, I think even in that video store scene, something that struck me with Matthew Lillard and his like physicality was that he's like similarly like standing behind Jamie Kennedy with his arms wrapped around his
Mm-hmm.
shoulders and his head perched on the back on his shoulder on the back and is like literally like gingerly playing with
Yeah.
Jamie Kennedy's earlobe while they
Yes.
talk,
Yeah.
just like fiddling with the little dangly part of the ear.
Uh-huh.
And it's
Gently
so
caressing.
absent-mindedly intimate, physically
Mm-hmm.
intimate. Like there's this, I think he does such a stellar job of portraying high intensity physicality
Mm-hmm.
that if you are able to stay in that moment with, and as another actor and like yes and it and meet him in it, it's like that level of charge is often only seen in erotic connection on
Mm-hmm.
screen, right? I don't think that we have a ton of category for it as
Yeah.
viewers, except for those moments where like folks are like so charged with energy between each other that they come
Mm-hmm.
together and they fuck, right? But in
Yeah.
this, it's that same level of connection and electricity and embodiment, but that frenzy whips them up to murder. And
Yeah.
it's wild. It is so wild and
Yeah.
so well done. I think
Mm-hmm.
I could monologue about it forever.
Yeah. Well, and I'm curious from a like intimacy coordination or direction standpoint, is there any like what goes into something like that? Because, like you said, it's not quite the same, but there can also still be this degree of physical touch and crossing that boundary that can feel like it does build a lot of emotion and can make you feel like vulnerable or exposed in some way. Like how does that negotiation look compared to, or is it the same as like a sex
Yeah.
scene?
Well, in the year 1996, it didn't look like
Yeah.
anything because it didn't exist. But I think it depends on the production itself. Like I think that that's kind of the answer to everything. But
Mm.
a lot of folks in this field, I think myself included, would argue that like staged violence is intimacy. Like
Mhm.
it is a physically intimate, high stakes, high intensity, high vulnerability story to tell. And so there is a longer history of having like stunt coordinators and fight directors and folks whose job is like to teach you how to safely tell that story without actually hurting
Mhm.
yourself. And I think you'll find a lot of intimacy coordinators who actually come from the world of fight
Hmm.
because for a long time directors were like, I don't know what to do for this moment, but you're here. Can you look at this? So you'll see
Yeah.
that that's really, really common. It's actually, I think, it's shifting now, but I think for a long time it was less common to not have a fight background. And even like I will go into spaces and folks will be like, oh, can you look at this slap? And I'm like, I mean, I can. I don't think I'm who you want to look at this slap, but like making sure people are well resourced in that way. And so I think if nothing else, especially folks who are so improv oriented, like these two seem to be, or at least Matthew Lillard seems to be, having just a pre-convo about expectations and kind of like the limits of the playground, right? Like we can
Mhm.
improv in here, and here are the places that I would say that playground extends to or doesn't, right? Like
Yeah.
you can improv to your heart's content with these body parts. Don't touch me this way and don't touch this thing. And then go forth and play and then check in between takes to make sure that that is still feeling true for people. Because I think something that is true for boundaries, whether it's on stage or in life, is that we often find out what our boundaries are through trial and
Mhm.
experimentation because our
Yeah.
body knows stuff our brain doesn't. And so you might think that you're cool with something and then it happens and you're like, oh, LOL. No, thank you.
Mm.
So I think that's some of how those conversations would go. And the ideal for an intimacy coordinator is that they are a collaborator with several different levels of production, right? Like costuming and lighting and the director and the producer to make sure that everybody's on the same page and everyone has the resources and info they need before being in the physical space. And so ideally a lot of these conversations would have happened on the front end. Yeah, but it did not happen that way for this movie. So
Not in 1996. It sure didn't.
no, certainly not. Yeah. Ugh. It's so good, Blair. This movie's so good.
Tell us some
I
of the
would not
movie
want to
illusion fun
model.
facts.
Hmm?
You said you wanted to give us our movie illusion fun facts, the references.
Okay. Here's some quick, fun Easter eggs for you.
All right.
Billy's last name in this movie is Loomis. Loomis is the last name of one of the main characters in the movie Psycho, the Hitchcock film Psycho.
Oh.
The one of the anchors or like the newscasters who is outside of the school and asks Sydney, says like, the people want to know, they have a right to know. That is actually Linda Blair, who was the child star in the movie The Exorcist.
Oh my God.
When Henry Winkler keeps hearing somebody outside his office door and isn't sure who it is, eventually he opens the door and speaks to the janitor who is dressed like Freddy Krueger.
Yes.
And he says, "Oh, not you, Fred." And that is a cameo from the director Wes Craven.
I didn't realize that was the director. That's funny.
Even in the opening, there are lines that are lifted directly from other famous scary movies. So like when Drew Barrymore's parents come into the house and see that it's been broken into, the dad turns to the mom and is like, go down the street to the Mackenzies. And like that is a line from Halloween. Like the Mackenzies is the family down the street. So there's just like lots and lots of little just like deep cut Easter egg homages to like other movies of the genre. Yeah. But I also just found it super telling, even in that interaction we see between Drew Barrymore's parents in that very short bit of how they react to the grief of their child is so, I feel like is setting us up for the gender roles that the rest of this movie is exploring. That he immediately goes into strategy, problem solving, go down to the Mackenzies, I'm calling the police. He's very grounded. He's very emotionless. And the mom is immediately beside herself and is just saying like, my baby, my baby, my baby. And has no capacity to actually like be decision maker or team member in this moment of trauma. And while we never know exactly how we are going to respond when we are in those states of fight, flight, or freeze or fawn, I think it's the choice that they made there, just like from the jump, sets us up with, here are all of the gendered dynamics that we take for granted as fact in this genre, but also in our society. And how do we turn that volume all the way up? And what can we see when we look directly at it through the lens of this campy, ridiculous thing, right? Like I think that's the power of campy shit. Like I know that some people love a really serious drama, and I do too. Like, and I think that we often sleep on the power of being able to like, you know, a spoonful of sugar helps the medicine go down sort of approach to these conversations, which is why I think that like I love this space, right? Is that we are talking about heavy things and through the lens of sharing, of all looking together at this third thing, we are a bit more able to or willing to or able to laugh through navigating some heavy stuff and questioning like, well, what now, right? That movie was made in 1996, and that same rage and hatred of women or trans people or people of color or immigrants, like that hatred still exists. And I mean, I was only 6 in the year 1996, so I can't tell you with great certainty, but I would say is probably more overtly and brazenly present now than it was then. What do we do once we look at it? Right? What do we do once we look at the thing? Once we say, oh my God, that was her first sexual experience, was sleeping with her boyfriend who is a murderer, and also just coerced her into this experience. And the only people who we see enjoying sex in a non-coercive way turn out to be, another murderer and a woman who is killed in the most like humiliating and comical way out of this whole film, right? It's like very much male gaze oriented to the point of satire, but I think that is what we see for Tatum. And so now what? Blair, now what?
I have to have the answer. I was so nervous. Every time you had
What's
that
the
little
answer,
question where
Blair?
you said, and then what are we going to do with it? I was like, oh no, you're not going to stick me with having to have the answer to this
What
question.
now, Blair?
Why do I have
I'm really
to know
good
the
at asking
answer?
questions. I don't have the answers yet.
I don't know.
Maybe we'll have to watch Scream 2, 3, and 4.
Maybe
to find
Scream
out.
2 will have the answers for us. But I mean, part of it is simply discussing it, I think. Like, I don't know. It is scary to look directly at the thing, but also, I guess another page out of scary movies. Things are scarier when you don't look directly at them. Like, the more that's left to your imagination, the bigger it can get, and the more uncertain it is what you can or need to do about it. So, talking about it, looking directly at it, being clear about what actually it is that we're dealing with helps, even if it's just a little bit. And I guess, I don't know, trying to think about it in terms of what would I want for these characters. I mean, Sydney is going to need a lot of therapy and support to unpack, like, that so much of this that she's very willing to take inappropriate responsibility for is not actually her fault.
Mm-hmm.
And unpacking, like, I don't know, being coerced so much, what was going on with her that made her ignore her clear desires to say no or to exit a situation or to distrust Billy. She was suspicious of him pretty quickly, and she was fucking right.
Right. She was willing when he shows up after the scary murderer is in her house and she's just escaped and he happens to have a cell phone, which, love it. Yesteryear, having a
That cell phone,
was
dude,
odd enough that it would make you be like, oh, you must be the murderer. Like, she was willing to call the police and be like, no, it was this guy. Like, she was willing to follow her gut and listen to her gut enough to turn him in. And, you know, like, a cab once again. And still, she has such a good gut. She's so smart. She knows what she's doing.
I know she is. And she gets talked out of it again and again of trusting herself. And some of that, too, is, I think, maybe rooted in realizing that a snap judgment she made before to protect the image she wanted to have of her mother was not accurate. And that's going to be hard to unpack, like, that can be true, and it can also be true that it's important to trust herself a lot of the time, and at least, like, pay attention to what her intuition or impulse is and check it out more thoroughly.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's really the only character we have to wish for at this point.
Yeah.
Because everybody else...
We have Courtney Cox.
Yeah, I hope that she and Dewey are really... I mean, we know that Courtney Cox and David Arquette met on this movie, and that's how they fell in love and got married, etc. And we know how that ended. But yeah, I hope that she maybe examines her motivations for the work that she does and, you know, comes to reckon with that perhaps in her own way.
Yeah.
My wish is some safe community to grieve in for everybody. And yeah, that's honestly like triage approach to this whole thing.
Yeah.
I feel like this movie is dissimilar to a lot of the ones we've watched so far because it's like, what relationships?
Yeah. Yeah, hardly anybody's left at the end of the movie.
Yeah. Yeah. I hope Jamie Kennedy learns that he is worth loving and gets to be somebody's leading man one day.
Yeah, without trying to resort to the weird, like, I don't know, striking while someone's in emotional pain or vulnerable, or like, I need to manipulate in some way.
Have sex with me?
No.
Yeah.
God, Jamie.
Read the
No.
room. Sweet boy.
Absolutely not, Jamie. I agree with Matthew about that one. You don't have a chance.
Yeah. So I guess, I mean, until Mom gets home, my plan is to lock the doors and lock the windows and make sure the lights stay on and the curtains stay closed because this was scary.
Yeah, I'll be over soon with a VHS. I'm just going to pick one up on my way. And until then, your principal loves you and wants you to be safe.
Happy Halloween!
Bye.
Bye. Thank you so much for joining us today on Mom's Not Home Till 6. Pitch us your healthy ever after. Leave us a rating or review on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to podcasts. You can find more from us by following me, Veronica, on Instagram at the.dressrehearsal, or you can support us on Patreon at the Dress Rehearsal Studio.